So you're talking about being in balance, Brad.
I was?
Yeah, you were talking about it's all about being in balance. But you're not in balance.
How do you know?
I mean, how I know, I see you stumble and fall all the time. I hear you kick a chair.
Stumble and fall? I've fallen once the entire time you've known me. Well, twice.
See, you just... But the thing is,
I fell and hurt my back, which just messed everything up. Everything's...
But you're also forgetful, so you don't remember all the times you fell. You don't remember the conversation we had half an hour ago.
I don't have, whatever you call the disease that
Alzheimer's
affects
disease?
human...
Dementia?
I can't even come up with
You can't even remember the name
I can't
of the
prove
disease.
that I don't have a mental disease, and I
I
can't think of the name of the...
Words! Words!
You're making shit up. You can't. You're falling all the time. You never see me
But
fall.
you stumble. You're constantly...
Because my knees and hips
Yeah,
foo
you're
bar.
out of balance. And then what happens?
That's not balance.
That's
it's just
that's
screwed.
That's physical balance. But then the mental imbalance comes after you stumble and fall, where you start yelling at inanimate objects. What the fuck? Slam the door.
That's how I stay balanced.
No!
I let it out in the moment. I don't hold it in. That's balance.
I think you're missing the big picture. I don't think... You know, true mastery is never having an emotion whatsoever. To be distant from your memory, from
life and people in general.
so that you can stay calm and be, observe from afar.
Yeah, from a computer screen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I heard you cursing at a bowl the other day.
A bowl.
Maybe you were in the refrigerator. It's like, slam! And it's like, what's going on out there? It must be the worst day ever. Like, no, I'm just trying to wake up.
I probably burnt my hand or something.
In the refrigerator?
You said I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
As far as I'm concerned, it seems like no reason, because you want to know what? My version of being in balance is to not get involved with your
Namaste, motherfucker.
Yeah, namaste, motherfucker.
That's balance.
Right. But the way I stay in balance is to, if you're yelling at something, I'm not going to insert myself into that situation.
Your way of staying balanced is staying away.
It helps. It has helped. Have you noticed how much more in balance I've been lately? Sans Brad. Did you notice how calm and zen like I was after you came back from being away for 5 weeks? Did you notice how quickly that deteriorated? It was one afternoon with you, man. I was like, I gotta get away from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is going down a bad road.
No, it's going on a bad road because you don't want to admit the truth. You can't handle the truth.
You see, you're making shit up again. I'm all about brutal, hurtful truth. That's my thing. I love it. It's my jam.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
Reverie podcast takes 70.
And action. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckemeyer, and as usual, I am joined by...
You can't get rid of me. I'm the balding Ewok.
The balding Ewok, a.k.a. Bradley Kingston. Today, our guest is the host, the man about town podcaster, filmmaker, Alex Ferrari, which, by the way, from Indie Film Hustle podcast and Indie Film Hustle, pretty much everything else. Mm-hmm. His name, I need to ask him about his name, Ferrari.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a name that you give yourself or if he was born with that name, which sucks because nobody knows your official name is Bradley Pinto. And
what?
Yeah, your name is...
What? We're comparing cars now?
If the audience could see his face, he's like, what?
I'm a Yugo.
A Yugo. Nobody knows what a Yugo is anymore.
They're sturdy and dependable.
If I may throw in some automobile useless trivia, while we're throwing out names, do you remember the Chevy Nova?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know when they went to sell it in Mexico, it died? It never sold one. Do you know why?
Why?
Because
Nova.
the word nova means doesn't go in Spanish.
Ah,
That is a true story.
That's
Look
hilarious.
it up.
That's
Someone
hilarious.
lost their job.
So, someone lost their job.
Someone lost their job on that one.
So, Alex Ferrari, like, is that just like, did you give yourself that name, or
I bequeathed the name
I was
to
just
myself.
about to say that, right? Because of the whole hustle thing, you got to be a Ferrari.
yeah.
You gotta always be hustling, man. You always gotta be hustling.
That's awesome. Well, so honestly, for a long time, I've listened to your show and keep thinking to myself, we should just talk to this guy and see if he'll come on our show and talk filmmaking and shoot the shit and stuff like that. But I never did, of course, because actually, we've been on hold for like 2 years. We've been back for about 14 or 15 episodes now, but we've been on hold, and it's one of those things that just like got put on the list of things to do, and
Sure.
while we're making our movie. So you're here because you have a lot of things to talk about. But
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, you were just telling us just a little bit a few minutes ago about like where you came from, and you're from here. Like I don't know the Alex Ferrari origin story necessarily. Except,
okay. I'll be more than happy to give you my origin story.
Yeah. So where are you from? How'd you get into filmmaking, like movies and stuff?
Originally, I am from the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area in Florida, for everyone listening. And I went to school in Orlando. I went to school at the Full Sail Center for the Recording Arts when it was, I think the film program was about 5 years old.
Yeah.
Now they own Winter Park, I think.
They
They own
pretty
the
much.
entire thing.
I'm telling you, man, they're everywhere.
The amount of money that school makes now is ridiculous. My tuition was not what they charge now. Let's just put it that way. And we can have a whole conversation about film school because I have ideas.
I was wondering. My next question was almost going to be, so Phil Sale, was it worth it?
But no, and I've said this publicly many times. It was a wonderful time. I had the best time of my life. It was great. For the expense that it was, I mean, my degree cost $18,000. So
Really?
that is
Okay.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was a specialized associate's degree. By the way, do you know how many times I've shown that degree to anybody? No one, not once, not even a little bit. No one cares. But anyway, at that price point, it was fine. It was great.
Yeah, dude, that's way.
Yeah.
You're right. Now it's like $90,000.
It's like $90,000 to go there, and you walk out with basically a mortgage that you can never get rid of, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And by the way, everything I learned while I was at school was pretty obsolete when I left because I was literally during the time of the digital transfer. Like, I still remember my teacher telling me, "Oh, they'll never edit on a computer. They'll never be able to get broadcast quality on a computer.
Yeah.
That's crazy."
I
literally had to teach myself Avid. I took all this kind of stuff afterwards. So I basically learned two amazing skills at Full Sail. One, how to wrap a cable properly.
It's worth $18,000.
That's worth, and how to make a really good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Where, if you want, I could tell you my hustling stories at Full Sail because this is before they had their own Starbucks. They had me. So what they did was during Full Sail they would have classes were 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Which they said it was to like prepare you for the business, but it really was because they were renting the spot out in the day, and that's the only time they gave it to the students. So I don't care whatever BS you want to say. We know the truth. So between 12 and 3, I would go. This is insane. The hustle has been with me since the beginning. I would go to the local supermarket and ask them, hey, do you have any I go to the bakery. I go, hey, do you have any baked goods you're going to throw away that are perfectly healthy to eat and perfectly fine, but they're past expiration or they're a day away from expiration.
Right.
So I go, hey, do you have anything you want to give away for free? And they're like, oh, yeah, sure. And I would go every week and just load up on donuts and cupcakes and cakes and all sorts of for free. Then I would take them over, set up shop right out front inside a Full Sail, and I got myself this like 40-cup coffee maker where I would make a Cuban coffee mixed with like an extra strength American. So it was like this sludge that was super high octane. And I must have raised I made $4 or $5 grand doing that.
Nice.
As a side hustle during my school year, and everybody would be like, because imagine if you come out for break at 2:00 in the morning, there's nothing, and all of a sudden you see me with cupcakes and coffee. They're just like, oh, and money was just thrown at me. So it was great. It was
That's
great.
cool.
It's fantastic. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
my rant on it. So anyway, my origin story is I went up to Full Sail, after that I went back down to Miami and I worked at a production house doing commercials. Meaning, and I wasn't doing commercials, I was the Apple tech, which I would run around the facility connecting Apple Talk cables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going old school Apple Talk.
What is it about? Why are we so few and far between Apple people? Like if you are an Apple person, you are just the expert because wherever you go, everyone else doesn't
So exactly,
know.
it's exactly how I got the job. People were like, "You know Apple?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know an Apple." I'm like, "Can you connect this cable?" I'm like, "Yes, I can." Can you update this software? Absolutely.
I work for a school system. I teach high school TV production is what I do for a day job. I work for an entire school system, and there is one Mac person at the IT level, and I probably know as much or more about them, but since I'm not an IT guy, I still can't go in and push the button to install software and stuff like that. But it's frustrating because even though it's 2019, right? It's 2019. Apple is it's like the
biggest
first
company in the world.
Biggest company in the world. People still act like it's the weird Mac thing and how they don't function with. It doesn't talk to a PC, right? Like I can't get the same things on it. I'm like, that was the 1980s, man, the 90s. Like, what are you talking about? Where I mean, it's a computer. It's a computer that does what you need it to do, and it does a lot more. And then you have people that buy one that don't really need one.
Right.
Like, they get the MacBook Pro, and I'm like, what do you need a MacBook Pro for? You're just sending email. Why don't you get yourself a Chromebook? I'm not like I am a fanboy. Like, I only want Mac computers. I really am. But...
Oh no, I drank the Kool-Aid back in college. I mean, and Full Sail, that was the other good thing I learned about Full Sail. That was the first time I was introduced to a Mac. I was like, well, this is cool. I like this.
Did you get one with your?
No, that was
they do now. They get.
Now they give you a laptop and they charge you for it quite nicely.
Right.
No, I actually went out and bought myself. Here we go. Get ready. A Power Mac 6100 screaming 60 megahertz.
Nice.
And I still remember calling Apple tech support because I liked the little extensions that kept popping up, so I kept adding more and more of them until the whole screen was full of extensions and my system wouldn't run for some strange reason. This is before I became an Apple tech. And I called them up and they said, "What kind of computer do you have?" I'm like, "Oh, I have a Power Mac 6100." They're like, "What are you going to do with all that power?" I'm like, "I don't know."
I'm going to take over the world with...
and today you could keep...
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So when did you fall in love with making movies? Like, when did you know you wanted to be a filmmaker? What was the movie you saw or whatever that converted you into, I want to do that?
First thought I ever had about being a filmmaker was when I was like 8 or 9 when I saw E.T.
Yeah.
And that movie was very inspirational for me. I went home and started writing my first screenplay at age 8 or 9, which was a boy befriends an alien and they play. And that was the end of it. That was the end of the screenplay.
Sounds like you and me.
It was. I didn't have. To be fair, I didn't have a lot of proper screenwriting training at that point.
Not at that point. It's okay.
Not at that point. But I never really thought about it as a career because back then, as you know, that wasn't really a career. That's something that was in the ether, where you could go make a living as a film director. And I then during high school, I was working at this thing called a video store, and a mom and pop video store, no less.
Oh, nice.
And it was wonderful. I didn't work at that corporate block whatever.
I did a stint.
I actually worked at a mom and pop where I was the manager, and I played Nintendo all day and watched videos in the back. It was great. I'd watch like 10, 15 movies a week. It was great. It's at some of the best times of my life, honestly, those 4 years. It was great. But that's kind of where I fell in love with movies more so because when I got out of high school, my parents were like, "So what are you going to do with your life?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then I went to my room and I had 3,000 VHSs in my collection at the time. And I looked around and I said, well, I guess I'm going to be a director. And literally that was as simple as that. And from that moment on, I just like, all right, let's go to school. And my parents were like, all right, let's send you to Full Sail. And I'm like, all right. And that was the origin, a quick version of the origin story.
I loved movies my whole life. I've always had like an active imagination, but I didn't think of it as like a career. I just like loved like escaping into the darkened theater thing, And I saw Cape Fear, The
Yeah.
Scorsese, De Niro. And I
They
was
shot
maybe,
it down in my neighborhood. They shot it there because it was shot down in Hollywood, Florida.
Nice. Yeah. So I saw it. And I must have been 18. I think I graduated high school that year. I was about 17 or 18 years old. And that, because until then I was a musician. I was that was the other penniless career you could take as a musician.
I was about to say, are you also a writer and a painter?
I can't draw, but I do write. And I've made almost zero money on any of those. So I switched. It took me a while to convince myself that I was not going to be a musician and I was going to do the other thing. It felt like abandoning the one first true love thing. But yeah, it was Cape Fear that converted me.
Oh, that was a great movie. 91.
Yeah, it was a great movie. Oh my God.
91.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so filmmaking, it was E.T., which I saw and loved as a kid too, but it was just like one of those things that it didn't sink in until I was much older. You're the guy that's like, you call it the hustle, but really, and to be an indie filmmaker, you have to be entrepreneurial. But you are like the entrepreneur. like I look around every time I go into like search for filmmaking podcasts, there's 3 indie film hustle things up there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how many fucking podcasts does this guy have anyway?
I mean, like, I don't know about you. I mean, I always feel inadequate, but especially when we're looking at indie film hustle and out, it's like, what are we doing wrong?
But you've got your podcast. And your, I guess, blog is like,
the main hub, yeah.
So that's turned into basically what I've recently heard you say is like your full-time gig. Yeah. That's what you're doing. So that's awesome. But you also parlayed that into like the indie filmmaker, like Netflix. Yeah, indie film hustle TV,
which also pisses us off. But it
pisses him off. I'm happy for you, but it pisses him off. So
feel into the anger, sir. It's okay. Just let it go. Just got to release.
I feel like we're interviewing our future self or
Nemesis,
something. Yeah, Nemesis, whatever.
But tell me, how did you come up with? Not how did you come up with it? Because I think a lot of people would say to themselves, like you see Robert Rodriguez do it with El Rey Television. You think, oh, that guy did it, and Oprah, and you're like, oh, you can just start a TV channel, like. And then, so a lot of people probably think, oh, that's something you can do. But you go, that's something you can do. That's something I'm going to do. Like, and how did you, like, because in my mind, there's so many things I don't understand about how that even works.
Right.
You know, I'm like, Ed, I think I heard you talking on one of your recent shows where you said, it just sounds like a lot of work. You talk yourself out of it just because it's so much work. I don't even want to mess with that.
Yeah, I was talking about what I did to myself to make my first feature film, which I didn't do until I was about 41.
Yeah,
and I was more than capable of making that film 15 years earlier.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
I could have done it.
I know the feeling.
Right, because I built it up so much in my head that it was this monster dragon that you just couldn't slay. So I'm like, why am I going to try?
Yeah.
And once I made that first feature film, a lot of that broke open a lot of dams for me. Where now I just don't care. I will go after anything and everything. I'm unleashed, as you will.
Yeah.
So with Indie Film Hustle TV, I just wanted to kind of get a place that filmmakers can go veg. Watch movies about making movies, watch documentaries about making movies, and then also watch making ofs, watch like raw behind the scenes. Like when I was coming up, I would just love to just sit and watch somebody else direct, to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
That alone would be
But not just
amazing.
anybody. I don't want to watch Brad direct, but I would watch Scorsese or Paul Thomas Anderson. But not Brad. I don't need to see
any of those guys. But anyone who's doing anything, because you can learn as much from the Scorseses of the world as you can from the Brads of the world.
Right.
In a good way.
What not to do. Yeah. What not to do.
That's a good lesson.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from watching, movies by filmmakers who are just starting out and watching their behind the scenes, as opposed to the big boys like Robert and Quentin and all those guys. Yeah. So I wanted to put together something like that, but then also introduce the elements of like a masterclass. So watching workshops, watching online courses, all in one place for one price. and there's just nothing that exists like that, because the normal mentality is that, oh, filmmakers are all broke, and it's just too small of a market. Yeah. And I would agree that it is not a huge market, but it's big enough for me. Yeah. Like I don't need to be making billions of dollars, you know.
And there are plenty of people who are going to talk themselves out of it, who aren't going to be in there and swimming in the pool with you, you know.
Well, it's a deep pool over here doing this. As they say, you know, the first one through the wall is the bloodiest. Well, I got some blood on me, without question. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not creating a Netflix that's kind of like a faceless corporation, which there is no person behind Netflix. There's hundreds of thousands of people behind Netflix. Where Indie Film Hustle TV is very attached to me. Yeah,
it's curated by you.
It's curated by me. It is me. You know, you're seeing my work up there, editing, putting stuff together, my original programming, all this kind of stuff. So even if a competitor does come, and I expect somebody will eventually, it's their flavor, man. And at the end of the day, you can't really compete with my flavor. Like I can't compete with someone else's flavor. It's just people who are going to like what I do are going to come to me, and I can't worry about what other people are doing. And that works in the podcasting world as well. Like, you know how many filmmaking podcasts are out there? And when I showed up 3.5 years ago, there was a good amount of podcasts out there that were filmmaking podcasts. I threw my hat in the ring because I felt that I had a different approach. And I had something to say. And I didn't see a lot of people, or if any really, that had a lot of street credibility at that point. That meant like this guy's done it. He's been doing this for 25 years. I've worked on a lot of features, and I've seen the real, and I didn't hear anything. It was all fluffy stuff. It was all kind of like, follow your dream, and I'm all about that. But I also think, follow your dream, but don't be an idiot. That's my motto. Like, follow your dream, don't be an idiot. And I wanted to kind of prepare people for the realities of what the business is, because if not, you'll get slammed. It's a brutal business.
Can you let's say I have,
use your words,
how much is it for the film TV?
It's like 13, 14,
$13.99 now.
$13.99. That's not month? Bad. So give me the pitch. What do I get if I've got $15? What do I get?
So for $13.99 a month, you get access to over 800 videos and counting. We release new content weekly. So we have feature films about making movies, documentaries about making movies. Then we also have curated kind of mini brands within it. So I have the Art House Cinema, IFHTV Art House Cinema, where I spotlight kind of art house film festival favorite films that are. I have a Sundance winner on there. I have a really big one that I'm working on right now. I'm trying to get the Polish Brothers for Lovers Only, which is amazing film. And I'm real close to just finishing up the details, so that'll hopefully come out in the next few weeks. And then I also have like the Drive-In Cinema, which is kind of like my crazy grindhouse
midnight movie,
kind of like midnight movie stuff that I like want to add, because I love those kind of films as well.
Short films too, or feature films?
I have short films there as well. I also have stand-up comedy specials. I have a huge amount of stand-up comedy specials on there as well, because it's everything Indie Film Hustle is about art. So it's either artists doing stuff, so it could be musicians. I have documentaries on musicians. I have documentaries on all sorts of different artists being artists, as well as screenwriting, like specific, shows, movies, also shows about the filmmaking process. I have a show called The Dialogue, which literally interviews 27 of the biggest screenwriters in Hollywood for an hour and a half in a kind of like actor studio style setting.
Do you have your big stack of blue cards?
Yeah, they do actually. He does have a big one. But yeah, he has. So I have all these kind of things, and I'm adding new stuff all the time. I have original programming and stuff. So, I mean, and then on top of that, courses that normally cost anywhere from $100 to $500. I've been able to sneak into IFHTV to give you guys access to it. So for $14, I can't give you more value. Like, it's an insane amount of value for $14.
Especially as a filmmaker who should be sharpening their saw. If they really want to make a movie. I think I heard one of your more recent I've been cramming as many of your most recent episodes as possible, but you gave like you have a couple of pep talk episodes The tough love episodes.
I've been doing more of those lately.
I love them because number one, I'm sitting there nodding. I was in Chipotle, like nodding my head, because I had like an hour between this and that, and I was working on some stuff, and I just flipped you on, and it was do this. I'm like, yeah, okay. And it was good to hear somebody else say, because I'm grinding it like every day. I have a regular job. I got a kid. I'm squeezing in. I really do try to squeeze in the hour or two a day to write, read, meditate. I want to talk to you about meditation in a bit.
Sure, absolutely.
But just trying to push the ball up the hill just a little bit more today, so that you don't go to bed and go, maybe one day I'll get to that shit. But because I hate that feeling, the older you get. I actually don't hate this feeling because it has made me a much more productive person. But that feeling you get when you get older, that's like, it's coming to the big fade out here. You got shit to do before.
We got plenty of time. Yeah. We got plenty of time. But I get what you're saying. I mean, like I said, you and I are both of the same vintage.
Yeah, we're same vintage.
Yes, the same vintage, as I like to say.
I like that.
A lot of times, the episode you're referring to is I think it was episode 296, which is just recent. Yeah. That was, how bad do you want it? Yeah, like, how bad do you want your filmmaking dream? Yeah. And I lay into people in this episode. It's like, I don't want to hear about, I don't have time. I don't like, and I lay down a 24-hour period of what I do. Because people always ask me, like, dude, how do you do what you do? I'm like, all right, this is how I do it. And I don't want to hear it, because if you're not doing the most you can every day, don't complain about your dream not coming true.
Because people on Twitter, like people I know, friends, like people I've been acquainted with for a long time. I just finished a new screenplay on Sunday.
Good.
I had a day to write. I seriously had it all outlined. I've been obsessing over it. I wrote 20 pages on Sunday.
Good.
Literally sat down and had like 4 hours, and I'd been thinking about it all week. So I wasn't going to stop until I finished. I happened to be done by 8 or 8:30, so I still got done early. But people, when I said I finished a new script that feels great, it's my second one in the last 6 months, blah 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 blah, and people are like, yeah, I should really write more. And I'm like, yeah, you should, because I'm honestly tired of hearing people say, I want to do that, but they're not doing it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like it's like, look, I can do it. I have a 15-year-old kid. I have a full-time job. I have a Brad. I have a dog. I have 2 podcasts. We do a movie review show called Movieisms.
Nice.
And we have a film we're just about done with, and we have 2 other things we're writing. It's like, yeah, do you want to do it? Because if you want to do it, just go fucking do it. Your first one's got to be shitty. I mean, if you're normal, like if you're a normal human, some people, their first thing is like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever. But it's not normal. You got to make your shitty one and but it's, people sit around like bumps on a log with their thumb up their ass. Oh. And honestly, I'm growing less and less patient with it, because I was born into the world screaming, naked, hungry, just like everybody else. And I'm no genius, clearly, but you want something, you do it, or it's never going to happen, because no one's gonna like with the magic wand and say, you are now knighted the filmmaker of the month that's going to be graduated up into like where everybody knows your name.
Well, it's not the 90s anymore, and Harvey Weinstein, unfortunately, is not going to come down from the mountain and anoint you the next new one.
No.
As evil and horrible of a human being he is.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, he was who he was.
He was the guy. Yeah.
He was the dude. But if I can say a little bit about that, because it's a pet peeve of mine, this whole mentality that people have. I did a whole episode on the mindset. The toxic mindset of the filmmaker, but generally toxic that easily can translate to the toxic mindset of anybody.
Yeah.
Where we actually on a neural level in our brain, we have now set ourselves certain limits, certain mile markers that we have set, and how they were set, I don't know. It's up to you, and it could have happened when you were 5. It could have happened when you were 50. Don't know. But those mile markers are set there by your brain to protect you. So because it's safe. It's not. It's going to keep you. It's going to keep you in this place. So if I make, and I use this example in the show, I make $50,000 a year, and in your mind you're like, I'm a guy who makes $50,000 a year. That's all I do. I'm the guy who just writes, a screenplay and never really makes a movie. Yeah. And I worked on that screenplay for 4 years because that's kind of what I am. And these are the mentalities. These are the frames that you create for yourself. And those things are what hold us all back. So I'll give you my example. I was the guy. I'm like, I can't make a movie. Movie's too big for me. I'm not that guy. I can't. I have to have this ready and that ready, and I have to have this camera. I have to have this much money to make it happen. And I used all these excuses because one, it was the framework and the mindset that I had created for myself, and two, I was scared shitless. Period. I was just scared. So I threw all these obstacles in front of me, and everybody listening to this right now, if you're honest with yourself. We all do it. We all throw obstacles in front of ourselves to give ourselves excuses so we can sleep at night. To know, what, I tried hard. I almost talked to that girl at the bar, but I had to walk 15 feet and the lights weren't right. And
she's gonna look at me like I'm nuts. Yeah.
She's looking at me weird when she wasn't looking at you at all. Like, you make these excuses up so you can kind of feel okay with yourself. But if you're raw and honest with yourself, you can break those mindsets. So as soon as I started to change my mindsets, and it kind of started with Indie Film Hustle. Like when I launched Indie Film Hustle, I was in not a really powerful place in my life. I had just come off of a failed entrepreneurial experience selling olive oil and vinegar, which is a whole other story. Another podcast for another time, sir.
You should start the Olive Oil Hustle podcast and tell that story because I've heard about it a couple times now.
I deleted that. I had a podcast. That was my first podcast. Was an olive oil podcast. No one will ever find it. It's gone. So no one look. It was horrible.
That's funny.
So I was in a pretty dark place, but while I was going through that, I
was in a dark place from the olive oil. That's pretty funny. Olive oil is glorious. It's glorious stuff.
You can put it on everything.
Yeah, you can put it on anything.
I could talk to you guys about olive oil. Anyway, and 18 age balsamic vinegar, sir. But anyway, so I created Indie Film Hustle, and then I kind of just started changing my mindset. I'm like, what am I capable of doing? And as soon as I launched Indie Film Hustle, it blew up fairly quickly. And I started getting a lot of attention. I'm like, okay, let me just keep going down. I'm going to keep riding this horse. And with that energy, I was able to then parlay it into making my first feature. I found the courage to make my first feature. I think I was like 50 or 60 episodes in to the podcast at that point. And I said, I'm going to go make a movie and I'm going to put myself out there and I don't care. And I did it so quickly.
Close to us.
Yeah, but now he's almost got 300 episodes, something, and we've got 70. But we won't
he's
talk
still
about
better
that.
than us, okay?
Yeah. We're not. Yeah, we still bow to you, sir. Come on.
No. Look. At the end of the day, and I say this all the time. At the end of the day, you're only in competition with yourself. Period.
That is totally true. And the thing is, it's fear. People fear of the unknown, false evidence appearing real. But also, for me, there was a couple of things. First of all, like it takes like a millisecond for a negative thought to take shape in your brain. It's like a self-defense mechanism, like you said. And it takes something like, I read this somewhere or heard it somewhere, 13 seconds for a positive or effective, happy thought to take place in your brain. So just to get to the from the I'm fat to, well, maybe I don't look so bad, but But
also understand something, and I've been doing a lot of research about this, and I've studied a lot about this, and I'm learning more and more every day. But that quote you just said, that it's about 1 second for a negative or a split second for a negative, and 13 seconds, not for every brain. Yeah. Because it depends on what your programming is and what you're hardwired to be. Because like I don't have those thoughts. I try not to. Don't get me wrong. I'm a human being. I have negative thoughts. Yeah. But I have more positive than negative now because I've started to rewire my brain. That's exactly, because it's programming. You have to think of your mind as a computer, and it's hardware and software. And after a certain amount of times, you keep saying I'm fat. Yep. That software starts to hardwire into your system. And it took me, and I just said this on one of my recent podcasts. I've recently lost around 30 odd pounds. Yeah. Because that was a mindset that I created for myself over the years. I'm like, I can never be that healthy. I can never do it right. I'm vegan, so I can't really just eat chicken breast all damn day like everybody else to lose weight. Or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I finally broke free from that. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, it's programming. So now after I've reprogrammed myself, now it's something that I will never go back to, because it's something that in my mind, and I publicly have said it now. So I did that on purpose too. I'm like, well, now you publicly said it. So if all of a sudden you gain 50 pounds again, it's not going to look good for you, Alex. So you now stay away from the pastelitos.
Now that you have your own TV channel, people, or your own channel, like, people are likely to see you often. They're like, it look like his pants are fitting a little tight there.
Yeah, a little rough out there, you know. And so, but that's at the end of the day, it is a software hardware thing. So you can reprogram yourself. It's work. And depending on how long that record, I mean, if I may quote the incomparable Tony Robbins, that there are grooves in a record.
Yeah.
Okay, and those grooves are there, and they're those. That's the programming.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, you got to take the needle and just scratch it, and it shakes it up. So the second you think about those negative thoughts, do something to yourself.
Yeah.
Snap a rubber band, just to disrupt the flow of that energy.
Yeah.
I promise you, it'll help.
Well, I'm a sarcastic person. I have a dry sense of humor. I also try real hard not to suck my own dick, I guess is the too much smoke up my own ass. So over time, I caught myself saying, yeah, nobody really cares. We're just gonna do this because we do it. But over time, I felt that saying, like you're talking about grooves in a record, sinking in to where I truly believed. I started to think, well, nobody does give a shit. And it's like I started thinking about the energy I'm putting out into the universe, which is a fucking boomerang. It'll come back to you, whatever you put out there. Ooh. And I started thinking nothing good's ever going to happen. I've talked to Brad about this. We've had a whole other series of conversations, and it's like nothing good is ever going to happen. And then I hated hearing those words coming out of my mouth, because I truly don't believe that. No, like, person that spends so much time writing and daydreaming and thinking of, like, we're going to make a movie, it's going to be great, is a true pessimist. They're like hopeful, romantic people. It's like, we're going to make a movie, it's going to be great, people are going to watch it, they're going to love it.
But the thing is, if I don't mean to interrupt you, but the thing is that, just like me, you had been beaten up by this business. Yeah. And you've been spit out and chewed up and spit out and chewed up and spit out constantly. Yeah. So even as whimsical as your mind might be, as mine is, at a certain point you just go, it's just not going to fucking happen for me, is it? It's just, am I just fucking...
It's not going to happen the way you want.
It's not going to happen.
Right, but that's the mindset you have. Yeah. But the thing is that when you say that, whether you believe it or not, it's true.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Those words you put out there, it's the truth. I'm fat. You're right. I can never lose weight. You're right.
Brad's been saying he's short for years, and it happened. He can't. He is short.
He can't grow anymore.
He can't. He made it happen to himself.
He believed the negative thoughts.
I will never beat LeBron in a one-on-one. That is not something that is my skill set. But within things that you can control, your height not being one of them. The hair that's coming off of my head. Right now, it's growing. I'm losing it in places I don't want it to lose, and growing it in places I don't.
We were just talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if it's within the world of something that you can control, it is about the words are so powerful, and thoughts are extremely powerful. Yeah. And whatever you put out there comes. And I kind of learned that through doing Indie Film Hustle, because I truly, it's a business. Look, Indie Film Hustle is an online business for me, right? Yeah. I create. It puts food on my table right now. Mm-hmm. But at the heart of hearts, I'm trying to be of service to my community. I'm trying to be of service to other filmmakers, other screenwriters, other people in this struggle of trying to make it in the business. Yeah. And with all my love and energy, I put it out there, and that's why I hustle so hard. And I put all this content out there, and I help it. And the second I started giving back, man, that's when it started coming back in, and it's amazing.
He's talking about mindset. That's awesome, and I feel the same way about stuff like that too. I don't really like being a teacher, like in terms of like a professional educator, where I work for
students aren't listening.
Basically, no, my students aren't listening because, and I'm not being negative when I say this, but teenagers don't give a shit about anything. But no, I do have a few people listen, but I don't like being a professional educator. I love helping people learn, And I love, actually, what I'm better at is sitting and listening to them talk about their problems and telling them, yes, I got news for you. That's just what being a teenager feels like. Those things that you hate about yourself or the stuff that makes you miserable now, those things will be your superpowers once you get into your mid-20s and 30s. And that will be the thing about you that makes you beloved to others. But mindset, man, so about that time, it was maybe 6 or 7 months ago, maybe even 8 months ago, I doubled down on my daily meditations. Like I was doing meditation periodically, and I liked how it was helping me. But I am a fairly zen person as it is. I'm laid back. I'm type B. I am calm. I don't really ever explode or blow up on people. I run 4 or 5 times a week, you know. So I have a lot of toxic energy like purged from the system. Mm-hmm. But I was noticing that dark cloud of nothing good's ever going to happen, and I was noticing my calmness was becoming more and more of a performance than a actual natural state, which it had been in my previous 20 years of my life. I doubled down on meditation. I meditate twice a day, mostly around an hour a day. You know, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning so that I can head to work a little bit early and have 30 minutes of quiet, so I can sit there in the dark and just go, okay, shit's about to hit the fan. Teenagers are going to be here in 30 minutes. Let's do this. And I got to tell you, it's the least amount of work, physical work I've ever done that has returned so many good things. Mm-hmm. My energy level, the creative ideas, there's just like fruit, just I reach up there and pluck them. I've had in the last, 6 months, I've had multiple ideas, like screenplay or feature films or just ideas have come to me, poof, like downloaded into my brain, almost fully formed. I just need to write them now. It's like I know Kung Fu. You know, from the Matrix.
I know film fu.
And it took me a while to even realize that it was happening, because at first you're meditating, you're like, am I doing this right? Because, you know, but it's the compounding nature. It's like,
yes,
you didn't do it today, you did it today, tomorrow, the next day, the next day. I'm about 6 months straight, 2 times a day, every day. I haven't missed a session.
Good for you.
And it has fucking changed me back into the person that I felt like I was missing, but it's like a supercharged version. I'm driving him fucking crazy because he's like, we don't have time to do all the things that you're talking about doing, and but I just it's there. So you mentioned that you meditated. You
Very
meditate.
much so.
You say like 1 to 2 hours a day, right? Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
So what is your that ties into the neuro stuff we were talking about. It has rewired my brain. That's the term I've been using.
So there are 2 things. I wanted to address something you said before, and then I'll talk about the meditation. Is when you were saying that like you were playing the calm Zen dude, but there was something else going on, and there was that dark cloud. Mm-hmm. Like this is never going to happen. One thing I also realized in my journey was I was holding on to a dream of being a director in 1992. I was expecting. No, I'm being honest.
That's about the time I wanted to start doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was expecting to be the Robert Rodriguez, the Quentin Tarantino, the Richard Linklater, the John Singleton, all those great directors that came from that time.
Yeah.
I had everything I was doing was for that.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that the world has changed. That's one. So I need to stop. Yeah. And 2, I rewrote my dream, because the dream that you might have at the beginning might not be completely the exact dream that's going to come out. It could be flavors of that, but you have to adjust and pivot along the way. So I decided, after chasing that dragon, not that dragon, but the other dragon, chasing that dragon for 20 odd years, I said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to play by their rules anymore. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to wait for someone to give me an opportunity. I'm going to create my own opportunity, and I'm going to create my own studio, and I'm going to create my own network. And I'm going to create all of that myself, and I'm just going to play by my own rules, because there's no reason not to.
I was holding on for a really long time. It's just a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I got a pretty decent budget to make like a short film. We Kickstarter, we raised some money. Was working with somebody who people owed a lot of favors to, so they threw some cash our way.
You got the red camera.
Got red, DP, stuff I'd not had ever, because it had just been 1.5 men, over here.
Yeah.
with the DV cam, you know.
Sure.
But we were shooting. I had like my first time working with like truly pro actors. So then I was like, this is what I've been talking about. I felt legit for about a week. For about a week, I felt legit.
The ego was like, yes.
I was like, holy shit! And I actually literally at the end of the first day, we shot my favorite shot that I've ever shot in my entire life, and it was over. I called cut. Everybody was wrapping up for the day. I went up to my room in this house we rented. Everybody with a little filmmaking commune for a week. Sure. I sat there on the floor and sobbed.
Yeah,
literally. Yeah. I was tired, exhausted, but it was like, I fucking did it. It's what I wanted it to be. This is working out. This clicked, and it wasn't me. It wasn't just. I wasn't saying I did it, but for me as the director, I'd done it. You know, I pulled that shit off. You know, and I spent many years after that, 2, 3, 4 years, trying to get back to that. Like, I didn't want to direct another handheld DV cam. Me and Brad
spoiled you.
It spoiled me, and I was like, I liked being able to pay people. I liked that feeling, and I haven't done it again since then. But we've made like 2, 3 short films and a feature film since then, so we haven't quite made it back there. But I was holding on to the doing it like the right way thing, and it stopped me psychologically from actually moving forward and doing the thing. To hell with like the rules that you're trying to live up to, like you're prejudging like yourself before you even made the thing. And I know you want to talk about meditation, but
no, absolutely. But a lot of that also has to do with ego. You know, like it's so much. There's so much ego in this business in general, but your ego is your worst nightmare because that ego is there to kind of hold you in that box. And like just exactly from your example, you're like, I've shot with a red camera. I can't go back to DV.
I can't go back to this shit.
I can't go back to this crap. And because the ego is in charge at that moment, it will stifle you and stifle your creativity and all that kind of stuff for years. And it took me 20 odd years to go through a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So once you want a quick way to just nullify the ego, open up an olive oil and vinegar gourmet shop for 3 years. I want you to do about 20 farmers markets a week. Okay? I want you to do that. And then sometimes you'll walk home with $50. Sometimes you'll walk home in the negative while you busted your ass all day and your back hurts, your hands have calluses because now you're a real working man instead of this little post dude moving a freaking mouse around.
Click. I'm working hard.
At the end of that scenario, my friend, the ego was just like, I tried, whatever. I'm sorry. So that's one way of going about it.
Yeah.
Or you could just snap the heck out of it.
So
and not have to do what I did. So meditation.
Yeah. So when did you start? How did you come onto it? Like
meditation
what's your
for me.
course
So meditation for me is it's an integral part of my daily routine, and it is now become it's just invaluable to me. I've tried meditating over the years, but it just couldn't really grasp onto it. It's hard, and as I started, a lot of it had to do with ego as well. Like, I would hear the voice like, "What are you doing? This is not working. What are you, a freaking guru? Get up off the floor. What's wrong with you?" So I had these so I would fight this situation, but again, the olive oil and vinegar sort of knocked that out of it. So, I started to go back into it a few years ago, and then I really started to hit it hard a while ago, a long while ago, and I started seeing what it did for me. It would calm me. Don't get me wrong. I don't freak out anymore. I don't generally lose my cool anymore, except with my children, because they're the ones who know the buttons. But generally speaking, though, I try to keep. I'm a much cooler head than I used to be. I used to be much more angry, much more bitter, much more of that. We could talk about that dude in a minute. But meditation really kind of honed everything, and it's almost euphoric when I meditate because I meditate so much. I mean, the most I ever meditated one day was almost 5 hours, and
that's a lot. I haven't done that much.
Yeah, that's my record. That was my record. I haven't been able to do it since because I'm just too busy. But I generally try to meditate 1 to 2 hours every day. I try at least 2. It's always a minimum of 1.
Yeah.
But at least 2, and I do 1 at a time. I don't do 30-minute or 20-minute intervals because for me at least, I need to get that train going.
Yeah.
And the longer you're deeper in, the deeper you can go in.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go so far deep that I will lose track of time, and I'll come back out and I'll be like, oh, that was 2 hours. Like that's how deep I'll go sometimes, which is great.
Yeah.
Like you walk out and you're just like,
it's like you slept for 6 hours, 8 hours. Yeah.
It
feels like a nap.
It feels like a nap, but I always wondered, I'm like, am I not going to sleep tonight? And I go to sleep like a baby at like 9:30.
That's a clean conscience. I say, for me at least, I almost never, 99.9999% of the time, never have trouble sleeping. Part of it is I'm fucking tired, but the other part is I don't toss and turn. I literally, I did everything I could do today, and I have to sleep 5 hours so that I can get up at 5 a.m. and go to work and do it all over again today. I did my running, I exercised, did all that shit, and I don't go to sleep. I have long-term regrets, like, man, I wish I was further down the road, but it's not like it's controlling me the way it was. But I lay down at the end of the night and go, and then I close my eyes, and I'm out for 5.5 hours. I get back up, and it's like I'm a night person, so I really like being up at night, but I have to make myself go to bed even at like 10:30, 11 o'clock so I can get up at 5.
I used to be a night person, but my wife cured me of that. So now I'm a morning person. I wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning.
He's a 24-hour-a-day miserable person.
Yeah, I'm up all the time. I have a quick question, though.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm a filmmaker listening to this show.
Are you?
And I'm like, what are you guys at meditation? What are you talking about? I don't have time for that. What does meditation look like for Alex? And how does that help you? Explain for someone who
help me in my journey.
Yeah.
Meditation. Well, first of all, there's two things that I've discovered in the last handful of years. One, meditation. Two is balance within your own body and being able to create a body that can provide the energy that you need to do the work that you need to do in the mission that you're trying to do in this lifetime. Meditation is, for me, a place where many of my good ideas come from. I get inspiration during my meditations. I see things in my meditations that help me with my life. I process things in my meditation, daily issues or stresses. It really focuses me. So as a filmmaker, being a director is a stressful job.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, especially the higher the budgets, the more people on the crew, it starts becoming very stressful. Dealing with those egos and personalities and all that kind of stuff, it's very difficult sometimes. So what meditation does for me, it just kind of focuses me to a fine tip, so then I can just kind of slice through the day.
Yeah. What do you do? Do you quote a mantra? Do you just try and quiet your mind?
I personally, there's so many different schools of thought on meditation. Me personally, I don't fight the thoughts that come in my mind. I just kind of let them come in and out. And sometimes I'll hold on and I'll think about stuff, and then it'll just go off on tangents and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, it just kind of like fades away, and then I'm gone, and I'm in this other place. Yeah. And then it just comes, and then I can come back. There's people who do mantras. It didn't work for me. Mantras didn't work for me. I always focus on my breath when I really have a lot of stuff going on. I've gotten to the point now where I can just basically just sit there and just within 5 minutes I'm out. Like I go in and it's not like, I mean, I hear things and I see things. It's not like I'm like in a completely different plane of existence. I wish I want to get to that place, but that's what it does for me as a filmmaker, as a creative, and as an artist. It is imperative to my process now.
I've heard it been referred. I think Bob Roth, the TM guy, the Transcendental Meditation guy. I think he referred. I read his book over Christmas, and I think he called it restful alertness. Yeah, you're aware, but your body is. It's like your body is asleep, but your mind is awake. It's like there. It is actually when you realize that's what's happening. It is. So it's a weird feeling, but I used to do way back. I would do like self hypnosis, and it feels a lot like self hypnosis, but I prefer, now that I've been doing meditation for a while, I prefer meditation because I feel like guided meditations, and which basically is what self-hypnosis is, you're guiding yourself along a meditation. There's the agenda that's taking place. Like, when I stopped trying to make my meditation about something for that half hour or an hour or whatever, is when I really started feeling like it was starting to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's weird because you have to let go so that it comes. It's like taking your foot off the brake when you're hydroplaning, and that helps you stop, which is totally counterintuitive, but it is. It's like letting go is like, oh, and then you feel that like sort of like buzzing stillness that they talk about, that you're like, oh, that sounds like some weird new agey shit, but it really is. You just start to like feel the stillness, and it's there. It's serenity. It's so weird that in 2019 I'm talking about being able to find serenity somewhere, like, and it's not on the fucking internet. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you this. Look, I mean, what used to be new agey.
Yeah.
And what used to be, yoga was new agey.
Yeah.
Now it's everywhere. Meditation has now become mainstream. When I became a vegan, I was a vegan about 6-7 years ago. And even then, I live in LA. And even then, when I go back to Miami, people look at me like, "Where's the meat? Where are you eating the meat?
Where are you going to get your protein?"
But now even more ideas of plant-based diets and again, I'm not preaching, but those concepts that used to be very outlier kind of stuff is now becoming more mainstream because people are starting to wake up to these ideas that it's like now it's scientifically proven, these other meditations and eating and all this kind of stuff. So it's pretty remarkable the age we're in. I think there is a sense of some sort of awakening, a slow awakening, no less, but it is awakening. So look, I mean, imagine 20 years. Imagine when we were in high school if someone was talking to us about fucking meditation.
It was crazy as hell. It was like, that sounds.
You'd be like, what are you, like a guru? Like, come on.
It's like the Hare Krishna people, the people with the sheet. Yeah, you're like, what? Yeah.
Right, exactly, and that's why like everybody who says like because of the image when you say you're vegan is like that thin, sickly dude. Yeah. Can't like even lift up anything because he's so weak. Yeah. As opposed to the NFL football players now who are literally vegan and they're just like they're 250 and they can bench.
They're beast.
They're beast. And they're like, I only eat grass. Like, no, dude, where do you get your protein from? Everywhere. God, everywhere. Sorry, I don't want to get on that side.
It's okay. It's okay. I've slowly converged to a more vegan style diet. I still eat meat. I still love tacos, all that stuff. But I'm trying more and more. It's just better for you, and I feel better when I've eaten healthier.
It's so easy to
psychologically
lose weight
and physically
if you just cut off sugar and cut off as much bread as possible. Yeah. But
sugar, bread, and as well. Yeah.
Yeah, like 80%, 80% vegetable diet, like beans, whatever, all that stuff.
Lentils,
lentils, quinoa. I love all that stuff.
It's so weird because I know this is a filmmaking podcast and you're a filmmaking podcast, going deep. But we're going deep. But it is filmmaking. You got to build the temple so that you can do the thing.
I'll explain it to everyone real quick. It's all what we're talking about is balance. Yeah, it's all about balance because you guys have been hogging the show. It's my turn.
Talk.
I have opinions too.
Preach, baby, preach.
No one made you sit there silently.
Even with meditation, there's no one specific kind of in everything we're talking. We're just talking about taking time for use. For some people, like even for me, a lot of times. I meditate without even knowing that I'm meditating because I'm just taking...
No, that's napping, Brad. No. I told you about that.
Like, even for writing, like, I'll get stuck where, like, what's going to happen next? And I'll just go in my room for 30 minutes to an hour, and I just turn everything off, quiet my mind, and just let it come. And then it just magically, all of a sudden... the ideas come. So it can just be quieting your mind. It doesn't have to be anything weird. Yeah, and I'm with you. We're just talking about a healthy body is a healthy mind. Yeah. So you don't have to do anything weird. We're just talking about balance
when
in
you
your
do
life.
finally talk yourself or convince yourself you can make a film, a feature-length film. We shot ours 115 pages in 9 days, by the way. So
Yeah.
that's
Good
our
for you.
that's our bragging point.
That took a lot of balance.
Nope. Yeah. I mean, nobody's seen it yet, so nobody knows if they're good or bad. 115 pages, but we think
Something's in the can.
Something's in the can, yeah. But you want to have the health and energy and balance, like to be able to command that, because we literally had 4 people on set with us. That was a lot. We could have used, many more, but there was me, Brad, and 1 or 2 helpers, and then there's sometimes more actors than and we had to make it happen. 15 pages in a day sounds like a crazy thing to do.
I'll tell you what. Look, I'll tell you what. I did a show for Nerdist, which we were talking about my alien in here. I did a streaming show for Nerdist, and we did. Well, first of all, I was about almost as heavy as I've ever been, and I was in the middle of doing full post-production on a show for Hulu called Dimension 404, and I was doing all the post-production of that, dealing with visual effects, all that kind of stuff, and it overlapped with the shooting of an entire streaming show, which I was also going to do the post on, as well as directing it. And there was like literally 3 days. Actually, how many pages we did? We did 4 days. Yeah, I think it's 4. We shot for 4 days. We did 96 pages a day.
Okay. What the fuck,
we
dude?
did 96. We did
Who
96
told you you
pages.
could do that? That's
No one.
impossible. That's supposed to be impossible.
It almost killed me. It was almost like we did 96 10-hour days, did 4 days.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that to brag. I'm trying to tell you
No,
something for a reason. For a reason is that I almost died. I literally, you could see pictures of me on set, and if it wasn't for my amazing crew and DP, who they could see me just like almost had to hold me up because I was so exhausted because my body was not in a place where it needed to be to do that kind of work. Yeah. And as a director, and I've talked to a lot of big directors, I've interviewed a lot of big guys, and they always say, right before I go into a project, I start working out. Because you've got to, unless you're Peter Jackson and you have the recliner on set.
That guy always looks like he just woke up.
He's just kind of like, what up, man? But he has so much money and so much support that it doesn't matter. But for the rest of us peasants, we need to be in shape. And I promise you that if he was in better shape, I'm not calling out Peter Jackson. He's an amazing director.
Great guy. And seems like an incredibly nice person, thoughtful
He's
person.
an incredibly nice person. But he did actually lose a whole lot of weight because he said he had to. Yeah. But I promise you that if you're in better physical shape, your mind is sharper. And you're able to process more. You're able to do more on a daily basis, and that's what I do now because of the shape that I'm getting into. It's amazing. It really is. And I don't want to hear, I'm too old. I'm like, I'm in better shape now than I was when I was 25.
Yes, it can happen.
Of course.
I at one point in time was 340 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I was 340 pounds, and you could look at I see pictures of myself, and I don't even know who that miserable fuck was.
Yep.
I look at that I remember I've seen pictures and I look at them and think, I remember when this picture was taken. I remember trying to hide behind that person so I could be just my face sticking out. I remember that feeling. I fucking hated myself.
Yep.
Deep down inside, down there, like the raging ocean, then you get deeper and deeper and deeper, and the stillness of your mind and all that stuff. There was somebody that knew that they could be different. But I just was I was whatever it was, but I hated it. And I've never felt, I lost over 100 pounds in 1 year. Like 1 year, long time ago. And I've never gotten back up that high. I got divorced, lost a bunch of weight, the divorce diet. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I've never heard of
it. That's a real thing.
A horrible diet.
But I bounced a little bit there. But it's just the habit. Like it's because it's a marathon and not a race. It's like like you were talking about losing 1 pound.
Little by little.
Anyway, so I want to get to the other thing because you. So you're a TV. You're
main thing.
You're a TV mogul. You're a streaming.
about mogul. But...
who says you aren't? You created the thing. Yeah. No.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, sure.
I'm the leader in my industry, sir. Yes, I am the leader in my. I'm
right.
the only.
It's filmmaking podcast.
So you have the podcast, all this stuff. You get up at 4:30 in the morning, all that stuff. Your 2 hours of meditation a day, and somehow you wrote a book. Like, not just a, here's how you make a
Yeah.
movie book. It's like, it sounds like, I haven't read it yet because it's not, I don't know, is it out or is it this week it's
No,
out?
February 22nd.
22nd, okay. So, seems like it's a how not to make a movie book. Kind of, I was listening to you describe it a little bit, and this, while I did not have the same horror story, I have had that failure early on where I was trying to make something happen, and it didn't, and it fucked with my head for a long time. So you wrote a book. Tell us pitch the book.
So the book is.
It does sound great. It sounds great.
Let me give you the synopsis. I'll read you the synopsis. It's the best way to tell you what the book is about. A bipolar gangster, a naive young film director, and Batman. What could go wrong? Alex Ferrari is a first-time film director who just got hired to direct a $20 million feature film, but the only problem is the film is about Jimmy, an egomaniacal gangster who wants the film to be about his life in the mob. From the backwater towns of Louisiana to the Hollywood Hills, Alex is taken on a crazy misadventure through the world of the mafia and Hollywood. Huge movie stars, billion-dollar producers, studio heads, and of course a few gangsters populate this unbelievable journey down the rabbit hole of chasing your dream. Would you sell your soul to the devil to make your dream come true? By the way, did we mention that this story is based on true events? No, seriously, it is.
Yeah.
It sounds like Get Shorty.
I was thinking the same thing when I was
So,
listening
okay,
to
so
this.
everyone says this. It's like, oh, it sounds like Get Shorty. I'm like, yeah, but this was real. This actually happened. My life was threatened weekly or bi-weekly. It was kind of like going to work with Joe Pesci from Goodfellas. Like, you never knew who you were going to get because he was bipolar, undiagnosed bipolar. So he was like, some days he was the coolest, like, ha 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 ha. I was like, it's. And other days I'm like, am I a clown to you?
Am I stabbing you in the throat with a pencil? Yeah.
So the book is called Shooting for the Mob.
Yeah.
It has to be called Shooting for the Mob. There's no other time.
Yeah.
And it's a true story. I mean, I was 26 years old when it happened. I got caught up in this web of this gangster. I was not really that street smart back then, but even then I still kind of tiptoed in. But he was just too good, and I didn't see him coming by any stretch.
Yeah.
And by the time I saw what was happening, it was too late. I was already entangled in the web, and I was too weak mentally and spiritually and everything to deal with someone like him. And then if that wasn't the craziest story about just trying to make a movie for a mobster, I was taken seriously by Hollywood. So I was flown out to L.A. and I met billion-dollar producers. I met huge movie stars. I even got to meet Batman. There's a whole chapter on how I met Batman at his ranch, and it was insane. I'm having lunch at the Chateau Marmont. I'm over at the Ivy. I'm over at Spago's. Movie stars everywhere. It was an insane journey, and I was in it for almost a year of my life.
Jeez.
And it was the most terrifying, darkest time of my life, but yet it was also the most exhilarating time, really, in many ways, because you were so close to the dream.
Yeah.
Like when you're sitting across the table from Batman and you're talking to him about him being in your movie.
Yeah.
And it's like a serious conversation.
Especially at like a 26-year-old kid,
Can you imagine a 26-year-old kid who really was kind of like really wet behind the ears? I've been directing commercials and stuff, but that doesn't hold any water in this. Yeah, so it was a very interesting experience, and I really wanted to make the book. I really wanted to write the book because I think that the story needed to get out there because so many filmmakers chase that golden carrot, and also they will compromise who they are, their morals, what they'll do, what kind of crap they'll put up with, what kind of abuse they'll take, just for the mere opportunity for their dream to come true. And I think that is such a horrible thing to do. And I was lucky. I mean, I didn't kill anybody. I didn't see anyone get killed. Because I always get asked that question too. Like, did you bury him? I'm like, no, none of that. No, he was retired, quote unquote. Yeah. He spent time in prison. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
But it was a whole. But but I did put up with verbal and a little bit of physical abuse for almost a year of my life, and I almost went bankrupt. I mean, it was a horrible experience. So I hope the story shows people that if you're in a bad situation, you can get out of it. It's all about choices.
It's Well, I mean, I'm just sitting here listening to you talk about being in an abusive relationship, and I'm thinking, at some point, you're probably thinking, this is what I'm willing to put up with for my dream. This is how much I love my dream. Like, I will put up with this verbal abuse, the physical, like all that shit. And to sort of in your, not your, even though it was your, but I'm talking about just when you're in an abusive relationship, the warped mind, the askewed mind is sort of like, this.
Maybe he'll get better.
I'm proving how loyal I am to this. And like, there's some sort of like, heroic thing that happens. He's like, look, no, I'm sticking it. I'm loyal. Look at this. Like, look, I'm going to suffer for my art, sort of a thing.
But the overall, this podcast, I mean, this episode is about balance, but it comes around to that. If you're in a toxic environment like that, where it's just, killing you mentally, maybe even physically in some cases, it's not the right environment. If you're not balanced, if you're in a toxic.
You're right, Brad, and I've been wanting to talk to you about something.
Oh my God!
Maybe off mic. We won't do this on mic.
We've been together a long time, Brad, and
I got him
I look at
involved?
you in a special way, Brad.
Oh my God! This is
I think you are
intervention.
I think you're the one, Brad.
Oh my God!
And
so the story about how did you? First of all, my own selfish question is: this going to be an audiobook?
Of course, I'm on chapter. I'm on chapter 3. I'm doing
the book, and you're reading it. That's great.
I am reading the book because I have this velvety voice.
You do. I would only want to hear. I would only be hearing your voice anywhere if I was reading it. So.
No, that actually I do it because I have a podcast and I was like, I have the equipment and I just don't want to pay anybody to do it. So, and I think it's kind of ridiculous. So people who follow me expect to hear my voice.
Yeah.
I hired an actor. It's like, and an actor started doing it. People be like, well, this doesn't. It needs to come from me. But the weird thing is, doing an audiobook is completely different than doing a podcast. So it's like I have an audiobook Alex voice. It's like, it's like a bipolar gangster, a naive young film director, and back. What could go wrong? Like, you have to, I'm not used to reading. I'm just used to coming off the cuff.
Yeah.
And I also do voices. I also do Jimmy. Anytime Jimmy talks.
Oh, really?
Hey, kid, how you doing? So I do that voice to kind of give it a little extra flavor. Because I love The Disaster Artist.
Oh, my God.
I love the book.
The book was great.
The audiobook was fantastic because the guy, anytime Tommy Wiseau would come on, he would do the Tommy. He would do the voice, and he just does it. Kills that voice, and it just added so much to it. So every time we're like, "Hey kid,"
it's perfect.
So I do that. I do that. So hopefully it'll come out in the next few months if I have time to do.
Awesome.
It's a big.
So tell me, how did you end up? Did you want to write this book and you sat down and wrote it, or how did it come to be?
Well, it's obviously it happened almost 19 years ago at this point. So 18, 19 years ago when this was going on, and it had been a story that it was kind of almost legendary for people who knew me. Like, anytime I would go to a party, people were like, "Are you the guy? Is that true story true?" I'm like, yeah. And I would be very cagey about it. I just wouldn't be comfortable talking about it because it's just something it's, who wants to go back to the darkest time in their life?
Right.
For a parlor trick at a party. So years later, my friend Boris, who's Boris in the book, he's this ASC cinematographer who was my cinematographer on the show, on the shooting for the Mob movie. That's where we met, and we've maintained for a friendship, almost 20 years now. He called me one day. This was about a year and a half ago. He called me and says, "Hey, Alex, are you near radio?" I'm like, yeah, sure. Turn on the station. And I turned it on, and it was Jimmy. And Jimmy was on the radio talking his stuff, like, the system, it's always taking me out, and I'm trying to make this movie, and he's still
trying to make that
hustling this damn thing.
The same
and
one.
I haven't heard. No, it was some other movie.
Something else,
he's a producer now all of a sudden.
Oh, okay.
And then I hear his voice, and it all came just.
Oh my God!
I'd heard his voice in a decade.
Yeah.
It all just came whoosh.
Yeah.
And I was with my family at the time, and we were going to Target. I'll never forget. And I parked the car and I go, take the kids into the. I need to sit and listen to this. So I sat there for 20 minutes and listened to this guy talk. And then I call up Boris and I go, Boris, I can't believe this guy's still doing this. He goes, you have to write the screenplay. I'm like, I'm not writing a screenplay. Why would I write a screenplay about a period piece about a filmmaker and a mobster? Then I got to go out and chase money for this? Are you kidding me? This will never, ever, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why don't you write a book? And I'm like, damn it. I can write a book.
I can write a book.
I can write the book. And I'm like, all right, I'll start thinking about it.
I can squeeze in an extra 1 or 2 hours a day in my already busy schedule to force myself to write all this down.
I decided to write the book because I said, well, like, you know what? I in my mind was like, look, I could write a book. I'll self-publish it. I'll put it out on Amazon somewhere, and I'll have my audience. I'll sell it to my audience.
If you're following,
sure.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I was like, that's fine. That's all I'll do. Then as I start writing this, I was avoiding it for a while because I just didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to go back, back to Oz, like the worst time in my life, and then live there.
Who wants to do that? Yeah.
And then live in that space for a year, which is what I did for this. And there would be chapters that I would skip as I was writing because I knew what was going to happen in the chapter. So I would just skip it because I knew I didn't want to go there yet. Yeah. And I would cry while I was writing. I would weep while I was writing sometimes because it was so emotional for me. Yeah. And you see it on when you read the book, it's all there. It's this raw. Good. It's a raw book. Yeah. And I didn't realize that this process I needed so badly because when I was done, there was a weight lifted off of me. Yeah. But the funny thing about it, like it was like, oh, was it cathartic? I'm like, of course it was cathartic, but there was a weight lifted off of me that I didn't know I was carrying. Yeah. It's not like I was thinking about Jimmy for the last. I mean, every once in a while, the thought would cross my mind or someone would bring it up, but it wasn't something I would thought about and contemplated. Like, oh, me, still, I didn't hold on to it, but apparently I did. And then when I wrote about it, it was gone. And now I can talk about it so freely I could care less. Yeah. I'm like free. I'm free from it. Yeah. And I made me think, I'm like, if I was carrying around this insane weight on my shoulders and I didn't even know about it, can you imagine what other people are walking around with? Yeah. Weights of things that happened to them in their past that they're not even aware that it's holding them back in a way. Mm-hmm. So I wrote the book, and midway through writing the book, I get a call from a publisher. And he's like, hey, we heard you on this podcast. We'd love for you to write a book about like being an entrepreneur. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of a book right now. And they're like, oh, really? What's it about? And I pitched them the book, and they're like, we want that book. Nice. So I'm like, okay, great. And now I have a publisher. So it's now coming out.
I know. Thanks for voicing what I was thinking.
What did you say?
I said fuck you. I said fuck you.
And go fuck yourself. All right. Sorry. Fuck yourself. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, every time we turn the page and we're reading the book, we're like, fuck you.
I'm ready for Jimmy. Fuck you.
You're talking about something that I wholeheartedly believe in, which is like the therapeutic nature of writing. I call it the writer's intuition. It's like a sixth sense. Even if, like you were saying, you knew that story, you knew it by heart, it had happened to you, you knew it better than anyone, you'd lived it. But I always tell people, like my students, a lot of times they're teenagers, they're angsty teenagers. I tell them meditate. I actually started a meditation club at my school. We're going to do it on Mondays, like for 30 minutes, and try to recruit people. But I also tell them to write it down. I know you might not think of yourself as a writer, but you will start writing something, and your brain, your subconscious, will start solving the problems for you. It'll tell you the answers to the questions you don't even know you have in your writing. Like, I've solved so many like life questions just by writing something. I'll stop for a second and go, huh. Yeah, that's what I was trying to fit. And then the writing is something other than just like fictitious stories I'm telling to, look at my great stories. It's like actually has helped me heal somehow. Some little thing, like you said, that you don't even know was bothering, that was there. I even knew that what was going on back then. I knew this was going to be a story one day. Yeah. And I actually wrote down notebooks full of notes of what was going on while I was doing this. And I knew, and I had them. I just had them in my closet. Yeah.
because I wrote down character, because the people I was meeting, the situations that were happening, was just unbelievable. And like, you couldn't cast these, like my crew, oh my God, they were wonderful, but they were such amazing personalities. The people I would meet, the things I saw, God, it was brilliant. So I wrote it all down back then, a lot of it. And then when I was writing the book, I went back to all my notes and just kind of outlined a bunch of stuff. And then a lot of it was still inside. I mean, I was surprised at how much still lived in me.
Just like it was yesterday, probably.
Oh, it's
visceral.
I'm here tomorrow. I'm right there. Like I could think I'm there right now. But now I look at it as a spectator. I don't look at it as someone who's in the show. I'm looking at it as a spectator now.
Does so you don't contact with the Jimmy guy?
I haven't the Jimmy.
Do you think when the book becomes a thing, you could hear from him? Like what?
Oh, yeah, I'm expecting to.
You're expecting.
Absolutely. I'm expecting to hear from Jimmy.
Yeah. It's gonna happen.
Jimmy's an older gentleman at this point. Jimmy's already been through a stroke. Last I heard.
Yeah.
And in the book I said it. I hold Jimmy no ill will.
Yeah.
If I saw Jimmy, I would give him a big hug, and I said thank you, because in his own way, he taught me. He was one of my greatest teachers in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
you have to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a teacher that he meant to be my teacher. He was just being Jimmy.
Yeah.
But he taught me so much about life in that year, about who I am, and that still resonates to this day as I'm talking to you as a 44-year-old man. I'm still talking about something a guy that I met almost 20 years ago, and the impact that man had on my life. Yeah. So I don't hold him any ill will. And people always ask me, if you could go back in time, would you change anything? I go, nope. I would go through it all again, because it made me who I am today. And a lot of people listening who are part of my tribe, I said very frankly, I go, if you ever hear my voice, when you start hearing me, you hear this grizzled, war-torn kind of indie filmmaker. This is my origin story. This is my radioactive spider. This is the gamma rays.
It's crazy because it's a story I tell about my divorce, and we're coming to the end. I promise. We've been talking for a bit. So I tell a story about my divorce. It's like we have a good relationship with my ex-wife. It's not, I don't have any animosity towards her, at least publicly, but no, she had things like, everybody has their things. So I caught myself doing one day after we were divorced, I'm just going to do the opposite of the way she used to like that done, and look at how in control I am. Then I stopped myself for a second and realized, no, dude, she's still controlling you, because 6 months into this and you're now doing it the opposite out of spite. It's like not a real thing. But so many things in your life, actually, the toxic relationships, the good relationships, the bad ones, whatever, all that ugly stuff that you try to act like never happened, those things actually shape you as much as there are things I do as a parent. I love my parents. I love my dad and my mom. But there are things I do as a parent because of negative ways I felt as a kid growing up. I do some things now because of that, and I've considered myself a better parent because of it. Like, I grew up in the 80s. I mean, how the 80 parents were. It was like, it's like...
My friend, I grew up with 80 Latino parents.
Okay.
Cuban parents in Miami.
Okay.
I saw things that would... as I may quote Ghostbusters, I saw things that would make you turn white. I mean, it's just...
Right. So it's stuff, it's stuff. And as much as you hate it, as much as you don't even want to admit it, those things made you the person you are today. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever. And as long as you are, in my opinion, moving towards being the best version of yourself, those things fall into place there and have a part in that. Even though in the back of your mind you think, man, if I never met that person, look at how, like, that whole period of time where I would have been a happier person because of it. But honestly, that person shaped you in ways that you never would have had you not been, like, verbally and physically abused by the guy, like you were just saying, or like, for whatever anybody's individual story is. It's frustrating to think of it like that because nobody really wants to say they lived through the hell that they lived through. Everybody would rather.
That's ego. Yeah.
Right.
That's
You would rather live in the Instagram, look at my, life,
Because you don't want to be honest with yourself. Yeah. If you
Right.
don't, if you don't want to be honest with you, look, if you can't be honest with yourself, who the hell can you be honest with?
Right.
So, and it's tough, man. It's tough to look at yourself. And I've had to look in the mirror way too many times in my life, and I didn't like who I saw. And I would hide, and I would make up stories, and I would make up excuses about things. But look, when you have a traumatic experience like that, whether it be a relationship, whether it be making a movie for a gangster, or anything, which is very common, but or whatever it might be, you've got to kind of not hide from it. You can't hide from it. You can't deny it, because all it's going to do is just drag on you, and you're going to become an angry and bitter human being. I always tell people when I talk, when I do any keynotes or anything, I go, we all know that angry, bitter filmmaker. How many people here raise your hands if you know an angry, bitter filmmaker? And I go, and then I say, and if you don't know an angry, bitter filmmaker, you are the angry, bitter filmmaker.
Right. That's true. It's
very true.
That's why you don't. That's why you don't know about it, Brad. That's why you don't know that you are. It's because you're the one, dude.
You're angry and bitter.
Fuck, I'm Mr.
You know how we get through our anger and bitterness is we film stuff and write things. That's the only way we can get through.
You got purge.
One thing I want to say though, and I think this might help a lot of people because it's definitely helped me out in my journey. When you find not a dream or a goal, but a mission in your life, once you establish whatever that mission is, if that mission is to be a filmmaker who does this kind of movie, be very specific about that mission. Or I'm going to be this kind of human being, or I'm going to be that. And you clarify that for yourself. It's a North Star for you. And everything around you, your habits, what you eat, what you drink, if you meditate, if you're working, if you're educating yourself by listening to audiobooks or podcasts, all that stuff starts to just fall into place without much effort because you are focused on the North Star. It is your guide. It's where the ship is going. And if you can establish that for yourself as quickly or as whenever you listen to this, if you haven't already, do that because it will help you out a lot. I've been able to do that with my life, and the second I was able to do that, man, it changed. It changed everything. And by the way, when you guys said "fuck you" about the book and the publisher, I want to make a note about that. When you start going down a path and you start breaking through certain walls and barriers that you put in front of yourself, doors will swing open.
Yeah.
And that's what happened there. I told the universe, I said, look, I'm writing this. I didn't ask for it. I wasn't even looking for it.
It was the energy you put out. Yeah.
Whatever. And it just came up, and the universe said, oh, okay, he's ready now. Now we'll open the door because now he's proven to us that he's going to make this happen.
Yeah.
And that one decision can open up a floodgate of abundance and other things in your life that would really change the way you look at things. So I know this has been the most metaphysical filmmaking podcast ever, and I love it.
Yeah, we have them before. Yeah, me too. I love talking the deeper shit because that's honestly where what it is for me.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what's
there's
weird?
only so many times you can talk about. Here's how you write a screenplay. Why are you writing the screenplay? That's what I want to talk about.
I'll sum up what we're saying. We're saying you could be the producer or director of your life.
Wow.
If you're
overweight,
right, then direct yourself to thinness. Produce the food. And
produce the food.
Okay.
We've talked for an hour and a half now, and we have not even discussed your movies. Your films. So
look, I've got some time. If you want to keep talking, I'll talk.
I just want to ask you, because I know you shot a film. Is it Meg? This is Meg?
This is Meg. Yeah,
This is Meg.
This is Meg.
So that was your first film, right?
Yeah.
And then you actually shot your second feature film, which is not out yet.
Yeah.
Dig this, Brad. At Sundance in 4 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So So tell us about This Is Meg, but I want to hear the Sundance story.
Sure.
Yeah. I want not the Sundance story, but the making the film at Sundance, I guess guerrilla style.
You think?
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, yeah.
Didn't have much of a crew on that one. All right, so This Is Meg was the first feature I did a few years ago. I made that movie for about $5,000.
Yeah.
And shot it in about 8 days.
Yeah.
Total. I did it with a scriptment, so it was a very tight outline, but a lot of improv. And I was lucky enough to have an amazing cast of veteran people that if you saw them. People from Reno 911 and Mad TV and all these kind of amazing actors.
Yeah.
And they came out and knocked it out of the park for us.
Yeah.
And that was the first movie. And that was the movie that I needed to make to prove to myself and to everybody around me that I could go make a movie.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And we sold it to Hulu. We sold it internationally.
Nice.
It's still making money. It's on IFHTV. I will, when I have a minute, create an audio commentary.
Paying yourself?
I'm sorry?
Are you paying yourself for the streaming rights?
Obviously.
Obviously.
I have a partner. I have my star and co-producer on that.
Nice.
So yes, we do have to pay some. But then I decided to make a movie called On the Corner of Ego and Desire.
Yeah.
And that movie is basically, this is Spinal Tap for filmmakers, for independent filmmakers. I wanted to create a satire kind of film that just pokes fun at the ridiculousness of being a filmmaker trying to make a movie, and all the mistakes you've ever made, every piece of ego, being stuck up your own ass, everything you could have ever thought about, I threw in this, and a lot of it's mine, a lot of it I've just experienced or heard about over the years.
Yeah.
And it's about 3 filmmakers, a female director, which is something I'd never seen before, so I wanted to make the director female. I just not in the business, in a movie. I've never seen making movie.
Yeah. I thought you were making a commentary about, but that's also very rare.
I literally just did a whole episode with a female director.
I know. That was a great talk. I loved her episode.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never seen a movie about making movies where the director's female.
Yes.
So I wanted to kind of do that first.
Yeah.
Then it's about a producer and an actor, and they have 24 hours to go to Sundance, because that's what you do. You go for Sundance for 24 hours to hunt down a producer that talks to them once at a film festival and said, "Hey, if you're ever at Sundance, look me up." But in their mind, hey, we've been invited to Sundance, and we now need to go pitch this to them. They're running around with a trailer on their iPhone for This Is the Movie. I'm going to pitch the movie within the movie. It's Shape of Water meets E.T. with Transformers drizzled on top. Now, it's shot in black and white, but mostly in slow-mo, because I want that Truffaut French New Wave vibe, but I really want to be in the Criterion Collection. Now, that is the pitch.
Yeah.
Never see the movie.
It's the most pretentious shit.
Upside down and out of focus, right?
Upside down. We have a running joke that I'm going to shoot this upside down and out of focus because
I'm an artist.
Because I'm an artist.
Yeah.
So then, on top of that, it's so pretentious. I can't remember. I can never remember the name of the movie that is the movie in the movie.
Yeah.
So I made it was so pretentious. I can't even. It's like I blocked it out. It was so pretentious. So they go through all of this, and then we it's kind of like a love letter to Sundance and to Park City, to the whole experience.
Yeah.
And all the truths, because I've been to Sundance like 7-8 times. So never with a movie, because I've never been there. And of course, Sundance rejected this one as well.
They rejected the one that you made there. That is that what you're saying? They rejected
them, and Slam Dance both rejected that film. I actually did a therapy session episode where I said, "You didn't get into Sundance, don't worry, neither did I." Where I literally talked it through with 14,000 other losers like myself who did not get into this year's Sundance. And now I have now been cleansed from the habit of submitting to festivals. I am done.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, I was just about to ask you that, because I've submitted short films to festivals, like things I just finished one over Christmas break that totally something I'd never done before by myself. I'm not an actor. I don't consider myself an actor, but I acted. I shot it myself. I edited it. Something short and sweet that I just had an idea I wanted to get out of my head. I've submitted that to festivals, like little things, but I haven't sent our feature film out. We sent it to our local Orlando Film Festival, which, by the way, we didn't get in, which is the first time it's the first time I hadn't gotten into that film festival with something I sent. But it's a feature film. It's different than sending short films and all that stuff. But I kind of am like, in the world we live in, like, the film festival thing is it feels a lot of times like, oh, we got into festivals. That feels like an ego stroke to me a little bit. And not that there's anything wrong with that, to quote Seinfeld, but honestly, you don't have to do that you don't have to do it that way if you don't want to. So.
I think there's a myth out there now that we're still living in the age where film festivals were the 90s, where they made you.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, you get into Sundance, doors are going to open.
Yeah.
You get into South by or Tribeca, some doors will open, there'll be some opportunities, but there's such a minuscule chance of your film getting in, and it's such a minuscule chance that even if you win those festivals, that anything will happen. I was involved with a film that won 2 awards at Sundance.
Nice.
And I had her on, Diane Bell. I had her on to tell the truth of like what happened, what happened afterwards, and she talks about her career, where she's gone. She's done very well, but it wasn't what everyone cracks up to be.
Yeah.
So, the reason I held on for a year because I shot this last year at Sundance. It was done within a month. I held on because I was like, if I'm ever going to have a shot of getting into Sundance,
if they have a sense of humor, they'll let me.
If I'm ever, by the way, it was watched at least 100 times because I saw the link on Vimeo and it was watched. It was only the festival link. It was only the only festivals would watch it. Yeah. So it was passed around like water. I know that. Yeah. But they didn't accept. So that's fine. Slam Dance didn't accept. I was like, what? Yeah. Like seriously? And I had people behind the scenes and I had producers reps and friends of mine. Nothing. Mm-hmm. I was like, and at this point, my movies have been in 500-600 film festivals around my career, so I've done the festival thing. Yeah. I'm not gonna wait anymore. I should have released this last year. I should have done it all myself. But now I'm about to sign a deal with a distributor for theatrical for this. Nice. I did get into one festival and happened to be a big one. It was Rain Dance Film Festival in England.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got into the Rain Dance, which was an amazing experience. I haven't been there, but it was amazing. Just to be involved and invited to that festival was great. So it has yet to screen in the United States of America or North America, because every festival I submitted to have a stick up their ass about promoting Sundance. That's the only thing. Because I know what I have. I know this is not the best movie in the world. Right. But it's a film that film lovers, that any filmmaker who's watched it, they just love it.
Yeah, it's meta. Is it meta? Meta.
It's so meta that I'm in it as a podcast host of the show called Indie Film Hustle.
That's cool. That's cool.
So I had to do it because I didn't have anybody else.
So, what is Spinal Tap for Filmmakers, as you said, right?
Yes.
What is the "this goes to 11" line from your movie?
So, I was watching Yojimbo on Criterion Laserdisc the other day, and I really wanted the way he influenced my French New Wave-esque thing. I'm like, but he's Japanese. It doesn't matter. So I really that kind of dialogue that came out is insane.
No sentence that starts out with it's that's Kurosawa. Yeah. That was pretentious right there. So it's Kurosawa, Brad. I know you don't. I know you don't know who that was, but no sentence that starts out. So I was watching Yojimbo. That isn't.
Well, no. Look. You could say that I was watching Yojimbo. That's fine. Yeah, it's a movie. It's a wonderful film. But if I'm saying I was watching Yojimbo on Laserdisc and I listened to the commentary. Yes. By the way, I'm a huge Kurosawa fan because if you look all the way in the back above the Hulk, there's an autographed picture by Kurosawa.
Oh my God.
I love his stuff.
I show my students some of there's a video on YouTube that somebody did. I can't remember what it was, but it was about how he used movement within his frame. And it's like an 8-minute little thing. And I watched it one day, and I'd seen not every Kurosawa film, but I loved my the streaming service that had all the Criterion stuff that died.
The one they just shut down. Yeah,
I loved it, and then it shut down. I was like, that's how I was going to catch up on all my Kurosawa that I hadn't seen. But
they're coming out with another streaming service anyway.
But it's just masterful. Like he literally.
He's a genius.
And it sounds like you throw around genius. I've never said Brad's a genius, but if I were to say Brad was a genius, it would be an overstatement.
Well,
But when you say Kurosawa's a genius, like it's only because there's not a good enough word to say what it was that he was.
When Coppola, Spielberg, and Lucas and Scorsese all say, "Yeah, this is the guy we learned from."
This is the guy.
That's probably an indication to start studying that guy.
Yes.
You know, like Hitchcock, like Kubrick.
Yeah.
There's a handful of these genius masters who were just playing on a completely different level. I believe that Fincher and Nolan are at that level, and they were living masters of of their craft.
You know,
as well.
Something I just realized is we did a couple shows on the seven characters that we use in writing. Akira Kurosawa, in Seven Samurai, he's got all seven in there. Yeah. If you think about it, I mean, even we were influenced.
I've known that since way back in the day. I mean, that's what I was modeling. Yeah.
And he's just awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So, dude, I could sit here and talk to you for 2 hours, but I'm not going to do that to you or to our audience. So
it's almost 2 hours.
But so where do people? You said your film This Is Meg is on Hulu.
It was on Hulu. It's off Hulu now. Now it's on. You can rent it on Amazon and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. But it's also available on IFHTV, Indie Film Hustle TV.
Are you and At the Corner of Ego and Desire is not out yet, right?
Not yet. No, it probably won't come out till the summer. So
your distribution thing you're about to sign with your people, does that give you your IFHTV the streaming rights?
That's kind of a prerequisite. If not, I'll walk away. If not, I'll walk away from the deal.
Okay,
I don't care.
They're
cool. Offering me a theatrical, but if I can't get it on IFHTV. In a reasonable way, like I don't need to have it like on the same day or anything like that. You know, if I sell it to Showtime and I have to hold it for 2 years from going on IFHTV, that's fine. I'll get it as long as I have transactional, meaning that people can rent it on IFHTV. As long as I have that, or then if it's in subscription somewhere else, that's non-exclusive, then I have the subscription as well. As long as I have that, I'm okay with it. If not, I will literally walk away because I made that movie for not a lot of money.
Yeah. So, are you taking submissions? Are people sending you stuff? Hey, can you get my film on your?
I've had a few people submit. Right now, we're a revenue sharing based service, so that we share revenue with people who submit. Yeah. Certain films, if you have a movie or short film about making films or writing a movie or something like that, I'd be interested in looking at it. Yeah. If you have any making ofs, and I'm not talking about like a 5-minute making of, I'm talking about like a making of documentary of some sort, or multiple, a lot of content about making of a movie. Yeah. That's something I would be interested in as well.
This isn't the big pitch to you, but like you brought up making of documentaries. We literally have 25 years of behind the scenes footage of us making movies. And we have been talking for about the past, 3 or 4 months to make a movie. I'm just going to tell you, make a documentary called Chasing the Dream or Chasing Them, something like that. Because we have so much old footage, and we have a friend of ours who passed away like in 98. He had sickle cell anemia. And like many times when I start making a movie, I almost have survivor's guilt that day. Because I think about him and I realize he would be here with us making this movie because we definitely would have written a part for him. He just he had that come with us, dude, we're gonna make it happen energy. And he passed away. So we made a documentary about that, but we have all the footage of the film we shot that had him in it, and he died before we got done with it in our archive. So it's been sitting there collecting digital dust for years.
I would make that movie.
Before the idea just popped out of our head.
I promise you that movie, just from what you just pitched me, sounds like it would be a winner purely because of the emotion that's behind it.
Yes.
And about what you're trying to do with it. Yeah. And it's going to be authentic, and you're not trying to do something else. I promise you that's where you should be focusing your energy on. And regardless of me and IFHTV, you should make that movie and put it out there. Yeah. And I would love to look at it when it's done.
I promise you it'll have very little Brad in it.
Because I'm the one filming everything.
I need more cowbell.
Right.
More. That's what everyone says. I'm the cowbell. More
without cowbell, sir, the show doesn't go.
The show doesn't go.
The show doesn't go with the cowbell. So I'm just putting that out there.
So everybody needs to. Everybody go listen to your show. You have these great what you call the tough love episodes, but I think of them as like the inspirational, like the pep talk stuff that honestly they're like 20-25 minutes, or at least the last couple that I've listened to her. That is like the perfect drive time thing. If you're like, you're driving to work and you're thinking, I got to go do this 8 hours of this shit before I can get to my thing. Many times by the end of the day, I have to psych myself back up to not just go home and go to bed and say, fuck this day, because I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, those are good episodes. Those are good episodes to kind of just listen again to again.
Right.
They'll get you hyped.
Yeah, they'll get you hyped. And you say you go hard on people, but really it's like from tough love. It's like from a place of love.
I'm doing it. Look, when I do those episodes, I did one episode back in one of my early episodes, episode 88, which is called "Why Are Filmmakers Always So Effing Broke and What Can They Do to Fix It?" And that episode, I literally, if anyone listens to an episode of mine, that's the one they should listen to, episode 88, because that is just an hour of me. I was pissed. Yeah. I just railed
at yourself, at it, or people. Like...
No, I was upset because the story of that episode was I was driving in LA, and when we pull off the highway, there's people asking for money, and I saw this one girl there, and she was a young girl. She was a very beautiful girl, young girl, but you could see she was going through some shit, and she had this sign that says, please help, or, give me something or something like that. But what I remember so vividly was the cardboard, what she had written was she'd written it in this calligraphy that was stunning, like beautiful, like it was pro level art on this thing, asking herself, please help me. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, it pissed me off. So I gave her whatever I had in my pocket. I had $20 in my pocket. I gave it to her, and I said, look, I'm an artist too. It's going to get better. And it just stuck with me. And I went home that day, and I said, I got pissed because I'm like, why is that artist on the side of the road begging when she has an actual skill, a monetary skill that she can go and work? I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what life experience she was going through, what got her to that point, but it pissed me off. Yeah. And I went off. I was like, you know what, everybody, this is why. And I laid down 7 principles of how to make it in this business. And if you follow those 7 principles, you'll make it. It won't be tomorrow, but you'll make it eventually.
We're still trying to monetize our skills.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like it's my
fault.
Go
listen to episode 88. Maybe you'll get you going.
I monetized my skills in the most ass backwards way. I'm teaching television.
Yeah.
If you can't. Yeah.
By the way, you need to do an episode on telling us how to monetize a podcast, because we got 2 of them, and we're still not making any money. I'm doing a website and all this stuff.
There's a course I'm developing as we speak. It's only $5.99, so it'll be very affordable. I'm joking.
Oh my God, we are not the product. We are not the product.
All right. So that's it. Where do you want people to go to find your stuff, you and all that stuff, so that we can send them your way?
So my website is indiefilmhustle.com. That's the main blog. If you want to check out the streaming service, it's indiefilmhustle.tv or IFHTV.com. And the book, if you want to pre-order it, you can go to indiefilmhustle.com/mob, which will take you straight to the pre-order page. It comes out February 22nd. If not, just go to Amazon and type up Shooting for the Mob. If you go to Google, type up Shooting for the Mob, I'll be up. It's available everywhere. I am going to be doing a small tour around the country, different states and cities, doing seminars, workshops, and book signings as well to kind of support the book. So I'll be around. I might make you know where all the gangsters live, so I'm not sure. I might need more security, but no, I might. I mean, actually, I might call Full Sail up and see if they want to have me.
That would be cool. That
would be insane. I'd love to freaking go. That'd be great. Actually, it's not a bad idea. I'm gonna call up the head of Full Sail. I know him. So, hey, do you guys want me to come by? This would be awesome.
Tell them I sent you. They have no idea who the fuck I am.
Exactly.
Right.
But they know who Brad is. They go, Brad, of course.
That dick.
All right.
And of course the podcast and the Bulletproof Screenplay podcast, and there's too many hyphenates. But Indie Film Hustle will get you where you need to go.
Dude, I totally forgot about your Bulletproof Screenplay podcast. Have I even ever listened to that show? How long have you been doing
episode, I don't do as many of those, so I do it once a week. That one is, I think, episode 36, 37, 38, something like that in that world. But that's only strictly screenwriting. So it's only screenwriting, and because I just found that screenwriters don't want to listen to this kind of stuff. They want to know about the craft, or want to listen to interviews with screenwriters or gurus, and that's what I did. So I created a whole brand around about that.
Nice.
So.
That's your next book, The Bulletproof Screenplay. That's a perfect title.
I've got 4 other books I'm working on. So there's going to be many other things.
Cool.
I'm not a screenwriter, so I mean I am a screenwriter, but I'm not. I don't teach screenwriting, so I learn like everybody else, but it is not my specialty. So I have other things.
If you finish a screenplay and you got a movie made, that's writing. That's all right. No,
it is. It is. But when you talk to like Jim Wools, the writer of Fight Club, that's a screenwriter. That's someone who does it for a living. That's one who's getting his food is made by his pen, by his typewriter,
by bleeding onto the page. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not. I make it elsewhere.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you.
Yeah,
a lot of fun. We covered I don't know what, that's more bases than we ever covered in an episode before, but that's awesome.
Yes.
If you want to contact us, we're Filmreverie at filmreverypodcast@gmail.com. I am Becca Meyer on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and all that stuff.
Balding Ewok.
Brad is Balding, what did I call you? Bradley Pinto? The Balding Ewok?
I guess.
Yeah.
Sure,
that's hilarious.
I'm
gonna call you that for a couple of days at least. That joke isn't gonna wear off for a couple of days. Maybe by the weekend
My grandmother used to call me Pinto Bean, so I'm not, because I'm shaped like a bean. So
yeah. All right. Well, he doesn't have to hear this.
You brought up bad memories.
Go. Say your deal. And so until we talk to you again next time, go make something and
the end.
Cut. Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes. And visit filmreverie.com to listen to past episodes, and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie.